Well, hello and welcome to another noonday Bible study, Success Secrets from the Bible. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Favors, and I'm excited about today because we have some information here that I believe is going to be a blessing. In today's topic, we're going to be talking about good debt versus bad debt. And when you say, well, what does that have to do with success? It's very important that you understand that when we start dealing with business, high finance, things of that nature, that you learn how to manage debt and learn the principles of debt, and then you will realize that there is such a thing as good debt and bad debt. But before we get all the way into it, I want to ask you all to do me a favor. Those who are watching on YouTube, please hit that like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Smash that bell so you can be notified whenever we come on, okay? And those of you on the podcast, you know, hey, it's all love. We relaunched the podcast, Success Secrets with Mike Favor. So, hey, welcome to the show, y'all. Let's get started. So there's a text in Romans chapter 13, and I want to read this, and it's going to be a blessing to you. So obviously I have notes right here, but this is something that I believe many people don't look at and pay attention. And so it's right here in verse 8. It says, "Owe no one anything except to love one another, for he who loves one another has fulfilled the law." Now, it's important. I'm going to get this in another translation for you because I want you to hear this. And so that is Romans chapter 13, verse 8. And I'm going to read that, say, in the NLT. Let's see what the NLT says. Romans chapter 8 says, owe nothing to no one except for your obligation to love one another. That's the New Living Translation. Now, you hear the language, owe no one anything. But if you make your way over to, say, the NIV, okay, you're going to read something that's going to be quite interesting. As soon as I scroll down, we're going to get here. We're not in a hurry, so we can take our time. Now, look in the NIV. The NIV says, let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another, for whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. Now, what is really going on in this text, ladies and gentlemen? Well, I want you to understand something. In this particular text, Paul is transitioning here from discussing what is owed to human authorities, including respect, honor, taxes, and things that's owed to everyone. If we back up to the beginning of the chapter 13, it says, let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God, and those who resist will bring judgment to themselves. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Do you want to be unafraid of the authority? Do you do what is good? And what it says, do what is good, and you will have praise for the same, for he is God's minister to you for good. But if you do evil, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain, for he is God's minister, an avenger to execute wrath on him who practice evil. Now watch this, you all. He says, therefore you must be subject not only because of wrath, but also for conscience sake. For because of this, you also pay taxes, for they are God's ministers attending continually to this very thing. Render therefore to all their due taxes, to whom taxes are due. Now we understand that Christ quoted this when they asked him about this. He said, render unto Caesar that which belongs to Caesar. So we're not talking about the taxes. We're not saying that it is faithless to take a loan or anything like that from a bank, a friend, or anything like that when you're in need. It is not faithless to say that you can't take a loan or people can't help you. But I really want you to pay attention to what he says. He says, owe no one anything except to love. So when you're talking about the debt, you all, the command to owe no one anything should not necessarily be read as a command to Christians never to borrow money for any reason. That's not what he's saying. That's not what the text is saying. The text is really, you all, talking about, he's getting us in a posture to understand from a Greek perspective. Remember, Paul was writing to the church in Rome. They had a lot of things going on with them. And honestly, I'm gearing up to teach in the month of December about lessons from Rome. Because, hey, and it may go into the next year because there are so many things in the book of Romans that we can glean from and learn from how to live a righteous, successful life. So here's the thing. the piece, you all, the Greek present tense of the prohibition may be translated like this: don't continue owing anything to anybody, because the verse probably does not forbid all debt, but it certainly forbids an attitude of contentment, watch this, with indebtedness, or thinking that indebtedness is a normal situation. So here's another perspective. When you are in debt, or you make you borrow something, you make an agreement, you got a contract, and you dishonor the agreement, that's when the discontentment begins to happen. So if you borrow something, then pay what you owe. The sense of the Greek is that we should not let any debt remain outstanding. Hear me when I tell you, the operative word is outstanding. When you have things that you want to do, this, the way our society and system is set up, we have to get loans and certain things. You can pay cash, don't get me wrong, you can. But if you cannot, then you can utilize debt. And here's where debt becomes a thing that can be labeled as good debt. Say, for example, you're going into real estate, and you're a real estate investor as myself. We can leverage the funds in our company by getting the bank to give us funds to go and do a house flip, or get money from hard lenders to go and do a house flip, get the money back, pay them back, and keep profit. Now that is an example of good debt. But when that debt goes unpaid, right? When it goes outstanding, now you're in problem. Now you're in trouble, because you were not good steward of the relationship, of the agreement that says, I'm going to give you this to help you get on your feet. Let me tell you all something, man. Many people who understand in terms of being successful, who read the Bible, understands that we are to use these things and use them for a certain amount of time, and then cancel the debt, get everything free. Bible talks about 49 plus 1, 50-year jubilee. All debt's supposed to be forgiven and canceled. So in this particular text, you all, we see Paul saying that we should not keep on owing anyone for anything. That may be understood as a requirement to always pay what we owe in a timely manner. All right, according to whatever agreement we have made with the lender. So put another way, you all, to not live lives of constant dependency, borrowing, or unreliability. I'm gonna say that again. You have a people group who believe that it is okay to always seek handouts. And I'm not knocking this now. I want y'all to hear me. Y'all are gonna say favors tripping. It's okay to, get help. It's okay to let people do charity for you. But when you understand the text that says, oh, no man, anything but love, you all, then sometimes you got to be careful of accepting gifts that are not given in love, because they're looking for a payback some way, somehow, sooner or later. Mama used to say nothing is for free. All right. So you got to be mindful who you're doing business with, how you're approaching this thing, and make sure that it's not putting you in a place of bondage where you become codependent on a consistent basis. And I hope that rings light to someone, rings true to someone, because, hey, I'm going to tell you, to the way God created and gave us authority and gave us the ability to do things, you all, I believe that Paul is not primarily concerned with money in this text. He's really, or if you look at the following verses, they'll show us, Paul is really talking about our obligation as followers of Jesus to love other people. Now, here's a concept, because most business people do not go into business with the mindset of loving their neighbor. Now, if you look at Mark 12:29, they asked Jesus, I believe that's the text. They said, what's the greatest of these commandments? Jesus said, love the Lord with all your heart, Lord thy God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. The second is love your neighbor as you love yourself. Unto it hang all the laws of the prophet. Now, what is that saying? When you go into business, and we go into business, you all, it is for the fulfillment of God's purpose in terms of helping one another. It is very much so rooted and grounded in the ancient Jewish Hebrew tradition that we are a nation, and we ought to express the love of God through how we deal and treat and do business with one another. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. If you approach business from that way, even in sales, I teach you all about sales, we teach you all about marketing. You have to be empathetic toward the person and understand that it cannot be about the money you want. It cannot be about what you think you're going to receive in return for your service, but it literally, genuinely has to be about the people, y'all. If you make it about the people, I promise you, you're going to have good fortune. If you make it about the people, if you make it service, I'm going to tell you, I'm writing something in the book, on my new book, And one of the things that came to me in writing to you all was something to this nature. I wish I could find my notes, but I don't have them right here. But it was something like this, you all. Some people say that I'm in it to win it, but the true nature of the money game is not for profit. It's servicehood, y'all. The true nature of the money game. You want to get wealthy and rich? I'm telling you, learn how to serve with a good heart, with a pure heart. And that's what Paul is saying in this, because if I love my neighbor as I love myself, I wouldn't want to get beat. I wouldn't want to deal with scales that are offset, trying to get over on people. And trust me, in my younger years, I used to roll like that in some cases. I would do things trying to get the money, trying to get over. But I quickly learned my lesson when it was done to me. And I'm talking about as a young man, y'all. Very early, 18, 19, I learned that if I treat people better than the commodity or whatever it was I sell, and people would be more willing to come to me if I would treat them better, give them a little more, under promise, over deliver. Business 101, you all, under promise and over deliver, and people will want to talk about you. Matter of fact, they'll become your greatest advertiser because it's called word of mouth to mouth, peer to peer, network marketing. That's another subject for another time. But I want you all to understand something. Paul in this text, you all, is seriously talking about the obligation of love we have one to another. Because if we love one another, including ourselves, including our neighbors, you all, seems that we won't want to be in debt, meaning we will not want to pay the people what they owe, what we owe them. So what am I saying to you? You will never not pay someone you love. Well, at least you shouldn't. That's bad business. Now, once again, the culture we live in, I know you heard words like this that said, hey, if you want to get rid of somebody, give them some money because they don't want to pay you back. Well, in the mindset of a successful entrepreneur, from a biblical perspective, if you say you're going to do something, then you do what you say. Mean what you say what you mean, and you can never go wrong. Because once again, if we operate in the principle of love, if we put these type of biblical teachings within the mantra and the cultures of our corporations, business, whatever it is you're doing, our ministries, I promise you, you're going to have such a level of integrity. Your character will almost be flawless, man. And I'm not saying you can't make mistakes, but people will forgive you when you do make a mistake, because 90% of the time your dealings and your business is upright. All right. Now, Paul will show us in the following verses that Christ-like love will naturally motivate us to keep all the other relationships and commands of the law and understand. I know we're not under the law, but we're using this as an example because the principle that it is teaching us is to do business and do business with love in mind, and do business with the mindset of being able to solve someone else's problem, help someone else in their problem. And that's what good debt and bad debt is all about. Bad debt is when you owe something, you're delinquent on your peace, you're delinquent on your promise, you're delinquent on your agreement. Good debt is when you can borrow that money, establish what you're going to do, and then pay it back in the time frame in which you said you were going to do. So when you talk about having good debt, credit cards, for example, I can show you all how to get business accounts set up and use credit cards instead of debit cards. Use credit cards to purchase and do what you do, get cash back from those credit cards, and even grow them to the point to where you can buy houses and flips. You can fix up rentals. I mean, I got friends, man, and colleagues, y'all, they buy fixer-uppers with a card, because with them business cards, you got 60 days. Do you not know if you're really on your grind, you can go buy a house, say for wholesaler, for example. I know I'm off topic, but I want you to hear this. You can take that credit card, put that credit card down, purchase that house, and now you're in debt because you got to pay that card back, but you can get that house, list that house, sell that house, buy a house for $15,000 and flip it and sell it for $45,000. Do a little gentle patchwork to get it to a bigger company that can really take it and do something right. Next thing you know, you pay 15, you sell it for 45, you just made 30 grand. You take half of that 30 grand and go and pay back the 15 that you borrowed. Next thing you know, you just netted a profit, 15 grand within one transaction. You do 5 of those a month, you all. You just cleared almost $75,000. Let's do the math. 15, 15, 30. 15, 15, 30. Another 15. Do that 5 times. You just got $75,000, and you did not have to use any of your own hard liquid cash. That's good debt, people. Okay? So here, listen, guys, I always like to keep these videos from 10 to 15 minutes. I'm close to my mark, but I want you to understand Romans 13 and 8, that from verse 1 to 8 really gives us an idea and an example of what good debt versus bad debt can be. So if you practice this and do things with the ethic of love, I promise you, you will be successful. So, hey, thank you all for coming in and sharing with me today. You know it is Wednesday, so we appreciate the noonday services. If you have not, don't forget to subscribe and follow our podcast. We're on the outlets, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, some others. Don't forget also to hit the like, subscribe, and follow here on YouTube. And do me a favor, y'all, leave me a comment if the information was good, if it was helpful. Also, leave me a comment, you all, and let me know some topics that you would like me to look at throughout this Bible study. But this is one of those things that is important, you all, because when you operate in such a level of high integrity with love and understanding how to manage good versus bad debt, I promise you, other people will see your good practices, and you won't have to chase clients. You won't have to chase and try to recruit. People will come to you because of the law of attraction. And I'll talk about that later. So with that being said, y'all have a great day. And don't forget to share the transmission, and we'll see you next time. God bless.